We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride, boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much.
It began just after that massive pro-Trump rally. Tens of thousands gathering near the White House to protest the expected declaration of Joe Biden's Electoral College victory. The group then marching to the Capitol, many just standing on the steps outside, others wandering in the rotunda, some scaling down the building. At one point, an armed standoff. Police say one person was shot. Tonight, stunning images as rioters supporting President Trump overrun the Capitol, scuffling with police. On the floor of the House, officers with guns drawn, with protesters just outside the door. Here you see rioters trying to break down a door, and you hear a gunshot. Over in the Senate, protesters breaching what's supposed to be the highly secure Senate floor, abruptly stopping the counting of electoral votes. Some taking photos on the Senate dais, others shouting and pushing past officers to get inside. Members of Congress rushing to take shelter, some wearing gas masks. Elsewhere, this man sitting with his feet up behind a desk in Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. Police placing the Capitol on lockdown. Top House Republican Kevin McCarthy condemning what he was seeing.
We're seeing here that this election was somehow stolen, and the president probably didn't help things today by his remarks. So where does that leave us tomorrow and the next day? In the middle of certifying, not actually certifying, the votes have been certified, but they were counting the Electoral College vote for President-elect Joe Biden and debating objections to that vote.
Those stunning images of a mob storming the Capitol followed another extraordinary moment.
Madam Speaker, members of Congress.
Vice President Mike Pence presiding over the special session of Congress in which the electoral votes are counted and the winner of the presidential election declared. And for the first time, Pence publicly breaking with the president.
Are you going to overturn the election results today?
Refusing the president's demands that he unlawfully overturn electoral votes for Biden. Pence releasing a letter saying, "My oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to determine which electoral votes should be counted and which should not." That letter released just minutes after President Trump called out Pence multiple times.
Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us.
At a massive rally across from the White House.
So I hope Mike has the courage to do what he has to do. And I hope he doesn't listen to the rhinos and the stupid people that he's listening to. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
And today, for the first time, the top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell blasting the president and those rejecting Joe Biden's Electoral College win.
If this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
Still, at least 13 Republican senators and dozens of House Republicans were poised to raise objections to the results in at least 6 states unless a commission is created to audit the election.
What does it say to the nearly half the country that believes this election was rigged if we vote not even to consider the claims of illegality and fraud in this election?
But shortly after the debate began, those protesters started storming in. Today. Now, officials don't know if he's actually going to say anything else or issue a more forceful statement. And some Trump allies outside the White House are frustrated with his reluctance to do so. They had wanted him to go further in his remarks and to say something live, not what he released on tape. But the president is hesitant to aggressively push back against his own supporters.
The work of the moment and the work of the next 4 years must be the restoration of democracy, of decency, honor, respect, the rule of law, just plain, simple decency.
We heard loudspeakers blaring that a curfew was in effect. A great deal of National Guard members were also here, and they were also on very high alert. Lester, it's incredible to see the Capitol just like this as night falls. The question will be, will there be more protesters that stick around? So a Republican congressman who was negotiating with some of these rioters inside the Capitol as they were trying to make their way in. He said it was just an incredible sight, un-American, and so many people around the country right now are asking, how could this happen? How could these rioters be allowed to breach the walls of the United States Capitol? But again, right now, a curfew is in effect and the streets are quiet.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful. That's almost ridiculous because we've heard both sides have real bad rhetoric for 5 years. We've seen protests going on for 5 years. And to be quite honest, we've never seen this from Trump supporters before. They've been out there, they've confronted, they've had interactions with Antifa and other groups before. We've had Trump rallies. We've seen them have rallies before, and we've never seen violence. We've never seen this before, not from Trump supporters. And so I wouldn't even call this really protesters. There was agonizers that went into the protesters. I had the opportunity to go and visit with a lot of our men and women that stood guard, that were putting their life on the line to make sure that members and staff gets to go home safe at some point. And they have families too. And I went down to the triage center, and there may have been 25 or 50 of them, I don't know, but they were bloody and bruised, and one young man I'm sure is going to lose his eye. And they were shaken up. And I asked them what happened, and they said there was a group that broke away from the protesters, and they had evil in their eyes. These weren't just your normal protesters; they had evil in their eyes, and there wasn't just one or two or three of them that said that to me. There was multiple ones that I talked to, but at the end of the day, we are all responsible for our own actions, regardless.
Is the president mentally fit at this point, and has the temperament to handle the presidency even for the next 13 days? What he did today and his actions as they continue all night tonight have to call those things into question. So these conversations, I think, are taking place, and they're real.
And some of those things you mentioned, obviously very emotional, and many people would have called them alarmists weeks ago, perhaps not tonight. Presidential historian Michael Beschloss is with us as well. Michael, there's 2 more weeks left in this presidency. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but where is this going?
It's going in ways that are very ominous, Lester. You know, this is a day I hoped I would never live to see. We saw a terrorist attack on the United States Congress and the United States Capitol, and it was instigated by the President of the United States, who today at midday told this big mob, march up Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol and take back our country.
For weeks, right-wing online chatter had discussed just this scenario. The president had called for protesters to march on Capitol Hill. Washington's mayor had called out the National Guard to protect the city streets. Every D.C. police officer was on the job.
Today's events were not representation of peaceful protests. Today, what we witnessed was unlawful, riotous behavior.
The question tonight, why weren't Capitol Police prepared for this? 2,300 officers make up the Capitol Police Force. Today, they appeared to be on the defensive, retreating as the crowd pushed forward, forced to pull their guns in the House chambers. But none of the kind of aggressive tactics police used against mostly peaceful protesters last June in front of the White House after the killing of George Floyd.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege, to storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest. It's insurrection.
What transpired, you know, my office is right there by the chambers. And I watched the crowd overtake the barricade. And I cannot thank the Capitol Police enough for the job that they have to do. They broke windows. They overran the building. We had to stop our proceedings in the middle of it. And as a nation, I know we sit back and we're appalled by what we're seeing. But I want everybody to take a deep breath and understand we all have some responsibility here. I don't care what we've ever said on Facebook, what we've ever done to one another. We are all Americans. We need to stop. We can disagree with one another, but to take it to the level has gone beyond anything I've ever envisioned that was possible in this nation.
We lost the opportunity to de-escalate this situation when the president released the statement where, as you just pointed out, he blended together this idea of going home and the fact that the election was stolen. That's why these people are here. And I would actually argue this wasn't just simply an organic, spontaneous protest. This is the result of weeks and weeks of disinformation being spread by the president, his supporters in Capitol Hill, people who support him in the media, individuals on social media. These people are reacting to the planning that took place in social media and that disinformation.
This is normally an area where tourists come. This is normally an area where people come to see the United States Capitol. Today it has turned into a scene of violence and tense clashes. We have watched media be attacked. We ourselves have been caught in some of these tense clashes with some of these demonstrators here. And of course, those images of that woman who was gushing out blood, appearing to have suffered from a tremendous wound here. Authorities have now taken back this area, George, but it took hours.
News, we've learned that the woman who was shot at the Capitol has died.
Yeah, maybe the most horrific image we've seen so far unfold today. A woman shot in the neck. We saw first responders trying to give her CPR, putting their hands on her neck wound. We've just learned that she has died. And, George, we don't even know her name yet. We just know that she died in this senseless violence. And we have to ask ourselves, what did she die for?
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
Exact same things about the Senate races yesterday. Coronavirus, man, it really does seem like a failure of government. No, it's fake. It's totally made up. It was made up by whoever, George Soros, Bill Gates, whatever. It doesn't actually exist. They never have to suffer cognitive dissonance. Everything is exactly the way they want. Even events like this, who right-wingers around the country have been hoping something like this would happen. They go very smoothly from weeks of, God, I hope something happens. God, I hope it happens, to it was the other side. The left did it. It was Antifa. Like, they never have to hold a single inconvenient thought.
Any day you have a death toll inside the US Capitol is a serious and history-making day for all the wrong reasons. We have a death toll of 4 after this violence today.
There have been dozens of reactions from world leaders, and they have been condemning what has happened. There have been expressions of shock, expressions of horror, and they are all saying that this was an attack on democracy. Here in the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson tweeted out that it is now vital that there should be a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. Germany's foreign minister said the enemies of democracy will be pleased at these unbearable images. The leader of the Secretary General of NATO, the world's most powerful military alliance, said that shocking scenes in Washington, the outcome of this democratic election must be respected. And around the world, leaders were placing blame directly on President Trump. The Prime Minister of Sweden tweeted out that, one more, President Trump and many members of Congress have a great responsibility for what is happening now. A spokesman for the president of South Africa simply tweeted, "Pray for America."